Hey guys, and welcome to our food tracking and label reading tonight. I am excited that you are here with us to learn a little bit more about food journaling and what your meals should look like, to give you just a few ideas and suggestions and some just thoughts of what you should be eating, basic food read labeling, and some recipe ideas for you to share here tonight. So to begin, let me introduce myself a moment. My name is Amanda Villarreal, and I live in Zeeland, Michigan. We have 5 kids, ages 16 down to 3. We are a busy, active family. And my mission is to really instill healthy habits and to focus on lifelong health for encouraging people of all ages to really look at health as a big picture. And once again, keeping that long term focus as the choices we are making really do make an impact on our long term health. And that's really our mission, to offer everything from nutrition consulting to group fitness classes, online workouts, and give people that are busy, give people that need options, availability, and ways that they can stay fit and help. And also tying in nutritional products and finding ways that we can also fill in some voids using clean and clinically proven options to help maybe fill in some of those gaps and give some more ideas and suggestions for a lot of the things that we might not know where to find options. That's where we have really found and partnered with an amazing wellness company. And I'll mention that a little bit here later. So let's begin tonight with food tracking and getting into a little bit about what research shows. It's very interesting that there are several very valid studies that have really proven that food tracking can be very beneficial, especially when it comes to weight loss. And this was one study here on the left that actually talked about people lost actually as twice as much weight when they tracked their food compared to people that did not. And the study you see there on the right was actually from Duke. And this study showed what happened when people did tracking on apps versus food tracking and tying in behavioral skills, and then also doing, both weight and food and behavioral skills all together, and to see the progress that they made. And again, it just helps to give us an idea that, you definitely can see improvements, and finding options of what works best for you. And me as a trainer and as a nutritionist and a health coach, and I always say that there really is no perfect solution for everyone. It's finding what works personally for you. And this is where it takes a little bit of trial and error to kind of determine what is your best strategy. So I'm going to give you a few ideas here, and maybe it'll just spark some thoughts and maybe some suggestions and things you could try. So one of the things that I do encourage my clients in particular is when they are doing food tracking, that actually you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And I have found the best way to really keep people consistent with it is to schedule actually only about 3 days a week that they do it. 2 days, maybe when it's more of their working schedule, and one day on the weekend, just so we can kind of get more of what it looks like on the week versus the weekend. And if we really want to see this work, we've got to be consistent with doing this, because I oftentimes see people want to just track the days that things are going really well, or they totally miss writing down the things that maybe were not so good. And the idea with food tracking, good or bad, it gets written down or gets put in your app or whatever you're using, tool you're using to help track it, that nothing hides. And that's what's really eye-opening, is you can start to see some of those things you might have no idea. Even things like liquids and how many calories are in a lot of our liquids that continue to sneak in that we may have no idea. So a couple of different options for tracking. There's a lot of journal options. There's also a lot of great apps that are available now. Here's a couple journal ideas from Amazon that I've seen both of these, and I actually thought they're very easy to use and self-explanatory and very inexpensive. So the Training for a Healthy Life journal and the Food Journal and Fitness Tracker is a 12-week one. So if you're someone that likes pen and paper and you like to write things down, that would be a great suggestion for you, is to maybe invest in some type of journal versus sticky notes and things you might grab in notebooks you may lose, is to have a specific book just for your tracking. Now, a lot of people really prefer apps. And if you are, really dependent on your phone and you're always on it, that can be a really good way for you to get in the habit of tracking in what you're eating. But I've also found that sometimes we spend too much on our phone, too much time there. And even for me, I would personally rather write it down, because it's just another thing that I have to look at my phone for to track. But I've tried both of these, and I do like both of these apps. And I think that the free versions are actually pretty decent. You can always do paid versions options. There are so many different options out there now. Noom is not listed on here, Noom. That's also a fairly new one that people have really liked too, but you do have to do the paid version for that one. So some of it can be depending on, how you look at what you want to track. So if you're someone that is really detailed and you like putting in everything, it's going to take you a while. So you kind of again figure out a system that works best for you. But I will encourage you guys too that as you're looking at this, from a perspective of tracking, it's not a form of dieting, right? We're not going to do this for short-term quick results. We don't like those types of things. We want to focus on long-term, lifelong skills and habits. So the idea behind tracking is that you do this for a period of time and start to notice by looking back at some of those habits, and we can redo tracking at any time. But generally, as we start to work through some of the patterns, it's not something you're going to have to do forever. You can just use it as a way to help get you back on track and to get you looking at, like I said earlier, some of those things that maybe you didn't realize were happening, and some of the things that begin to sneak in that you didn't really realize were there. So, all right. So here are just some quick suggestions, and we want to just kind of highlight, what should your diet look like? We are really big on, and I'm always trying to make sure we're staying up with research and what studies are showing. And there's a really big focus now, and I think it's actually a great trend. And I don't consider it a trend because I think this is how we should be eating: more whole food focus, more plant based, but also incorporating in every single meal a healthy fat, a healthy fiber, and protein. Those are the three main things that we want to see in every single meal. So when you're looking at what that would entail, that means for breakfast, we're incorporating some type of, again, the healthy option. So for example, let's say maybe you're having oatmeal, maybe you're going to throw in some nuts in there to get your healthy fat. And then you're going to throw in there maybe something to give you some extra fiber and a little more roughage. Your oatmeal has some of that, but also making sure that you're adding maybe in there a little bit more extra protein. So mixing in maybe some protein powder as an example. So then you've got a good balance. You're going to have sustained blood sugar levels, but we want to make sure that we're eating every 2 to 3 hours. That's very, very important to keep your metabolism fueled and to keep your body moving and running with energy and really ready to go. You want to be consistent in those habits. So every 2 to 3 hours. So when you awake, we don't wait until 4 hours later to have breakfast. Ideally, it's in that first half an hour to an hour of awakening. Then we start to continue every 2 to 3 hours having a snack or a meal. So most of us, that looks like 3 main meals and 2 snacks is kind of a general rough guideline. And looking at, some of the swapping, some of the choices that you may make. I like this list that I put together just to kind of give you some ideas of venturing out. A lot of us are really stuck into, maybe you always use the same cooking oil, or you always use all-purpose flour, and you never venture out to try some options that may actually have some more nutrition in them. So these would just give you some suggestions for looking at, some healthier fats and some, whole grain flour options and different snack suggestions for you here, and even things that sometimes we forget the health properties to a lot of the dried fruits and the nuts and the seeds, and even dark chocolate in smaller amounts are very healthy. And even other grains, so quinoa, brown rice pasta, all great ideas for looking at other suggestions beyond just what you're used to, like plain white enriched noodles, for example. So let's get into talking about food labeling. We're going to spend some time on this here for a little bit because there's a lot of misinformation, and there's actually a lot that we can talk about with this topic. So first thing we're going to get into here is never believe what you see on the front of the box. You have to realize that their job when they create packaging is really for marketing and for advertisements. And, just because something says low fat on it, for example, or light, it doesn't tell you the whole story. Oftentimes, those products are some of the highest amounts of fat and could be very high in sugar, salt, and calories. So, for example, if you were to look at a light ice cream, it could still have 4 to 5 grams of fat per serving. And that can really add up to a ton of calories. So, again, it can be a little bit of a research to look at your labels and learn how to read them, but it will definitely make a difference in the quality of nutrition you're getting, and to really make sure that you're understanding more of what types of food you are getting. So first one there, never believe the first thing you see on the front of the box. Number two, always read the nutrition facts labels and the ingredient list. That is the biggest thing that I'm always teaching is look at those ingredients. Now, for a lot of products, you can use the rule that you should be able to pronounce most of the ingredients on the back of the box, or some things it might not work depending on, like, if it's a vitamin supplement, some of those have very long names if it's the scientific name, but for the most part is a pretty good rule of thumb. So, you could see, for example, if you're looking at just the front of the box, maybe some crackers say on the front that they're trans fat free. But if you dig a little bit deeper and you actually look in the ingredient list, you'll find things like palm oil and coconut oil, and honestly, those are just as artery clogging as trans fat. So we want to see what's hidden in those ingredients and learning to understand a little bit more what's in there. Number three, check your serving size. That is one of the, I think, when we got into these super size me and big size options, that honestly, a lot of products still today are enormously sized. And when you even look at something as simple as like a spray oil, like let's say you're spraying your pan, that a serving of oil, if you are using the spray, is about 0.25 grams. And if you were to measure that, that's about 128 of an ounce, 120th of an ounce. It's super small, and that's hardly even enough to what most of us would even use. But we don't necessarily think about those things because, we kind of consider the serving sizes just to be, something that we don't highlight and really look at the amounts, and what it says on the back is a serving size. So really highlighting that, always check your serving sizes, especially even things like we're going to talk about this here in a second, but looking at the next one here, check the amount of servings. I was just talking about this, but look at a really good example are look at like cans of pop, for example, and it is amazing how many calories and servings can be incorporated into something that looks very small, and nobody ever drinks just that one serving. Usually you're going to drink the entire bottle. So again, that super size me factor is really not going to be helpful for many of us. And a 20-ounce bottle of soda, for example, has about 2.5 servings and 110 calories in each serving. So if you were to break that down, you're getting a meal basically in that can of soda, which obviously is definitely not going to be worth the 275 calories to drink, to drink that. So really look at those serving sizes and, kind of understand more about what is actually in that package. Check the calories from fat here, number 6. So number 6 on the, on the nutrition facts label, if you're looking at our screen here, I just put a screenshot there of a label, and I think that's very helpful. But unfortunately, it doesn't tell you the percentage of calories from fat, which is, for a lot of us, a way that we kind of determine how much fat we're getting. But if you want to do a little math with this, if you divide the number of calories from fat by the total calories, that will help to give you a rough idea of how much, fat is coming from calories. So for example, if the serving is 150 calories and 50 of those are fat, then that product, for example, has about 33% fat in that specific product. So it can really get to be tricky to really, again, figure out how many of those calories come from fat, because that can make a really big difference and add up very fast. And again, it doesn't always mean, that was a trend way back when a fat-free was healthy. So, definitely fat-free is not the way to go, but it's a matter of where that fat source is coming from that really makes a big difference. And that can be tricky to figure that out just because of all the different labeling tricks that they can have listed in that total fat. And then figuring out, like I said, how many calories are actually coming from that fat. It's actually kind of interesting. The more you do these calculations, it's, very eye-opening to realize how much is snuck in there. So another big area that we see hiding a lot is if you look at your sodium content. And again, we're packing a lot of information in here in about 20 minutes. So I'll stop the recording and I'll open up for questions after that. But, sodium sneaks in and everywhere. And the general guideline that they say from the American Heart Association and the Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention is less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. And that is actually very difficult if you eat very many packaged foods. So again, you want to start to just maybe be a little bit more aware of as a glance of that, this one has 160 milligrams in this one example, and that can add up very, very quickly. So start to be more aware of what the amount of sodium is in those things that you're purchasing. You will be amazed if you start to look at your soup cans and your packaged goods, even your chips and your snacks. Oftentimes, majority of the product is actually sodium. So definitely not the way we should be filling our bodies and looking at building health. So, all right, number 8, check the types of fats that are in there. Make sure there are no saturated fats and in particularly hydrogenated oils. So you can always read the ingredients and you'll see that word hydrogenated, and that's definitely a red flag. Or any tropical oils, even, lard would be another form, butter, cocoa butter, palm oil, shortening, margarine, any of those are going to be damaging to your heart and arteries. And that's not something, again, we want to really be having as our main focus. So there's a lot of other options that you can still get healthy or good oils. So the polyunsaturated fats are our ideal ones. So things like safflower, soybean, corn, sesame. Your mono unsaturated is going to be your olive oil and canola oil. And those are less harmful, but you still want to note that they're very dense in calories. So, we want to get ideally 20% or less of our diet in fat. So when we start to look at those percentages, that can definitely make a difference. So all oils, even good oils, are very dense in calories. So just always be aware of, what in particular you're reading on your label. That's a good thing to look for, is that, the fat content. So let's go into number 9. Check the sugar. There should be no surprise. Sugar is in everything today, and we really want to limit caloric sweeteners. So sugars, it doesn't have to say necessarily sugar. It could be corn syrup, it could be rice, it could be maple syrup, it could be molasses, honey, malted barley. These are some common ones. Anything that ends in OL, such as sorbitol or maltitol, or ose, such as dextrose or fructose, are all considered forms of sweeteners and sugars that are added to things. So really try to limit those. Honestly, there's really not a place in our diet for those, but we do say in moderation. So, there's a little tiny spot that they filled in the food guide pyramid, and less than 5% of our total calories should be coming from sugar. But ideally, the less sugar we can incorporate, the better. So number 10, make sure that any grains that you are continuing to consume here are whole grain. And it's ideal to see, for example, the very first ingredient, which is oftentimes wheat. And it sounds healthy, but if it just says wheat, that means it's a refined flour. So further down the list, we want to see, whole wheat flour or bran, and really look through that you are purchasing breads and pastas and things that have whole grains in there. So ideally, at least 3 grams of fiber would be your goal. If you're looking at, buying bread and whole grain type products, that would be, the ideal amount. So, and again, it's a little bit scary because, whole grains can be, really tricky to find because they sneak in a lot of those different names. So again, watch for the word whole as one of the very first things to really make sure that you're getting that fiber and you're getting the good nutrients versus stripped products that basically leave you devoid of nutrients. So we covered there some really quick tips on food journaling and label reading. We said we keep this to around 20 minutes. So our time is up here. And I just want to, finish up with offering a few different specials and incentives. So a couple specials for you guys. First one, if you are interested in trying something new, I'm going to show you here in a second a great example of a meal replacement that we love. I use it with our clients. Low glycemic. We talked about, getting in the healthy fats, the fibers, and the protein. That is an easy way to do it. So I'm a big fan of it. So we're giving you $5 off to the end of the week, and also $5 off to our new online workouts, which I'll show you a picture of here of that in a second. And if you screenshot this, or you could copy and paste it, that we are going to give you a free sample of that Life Shake if you would like to take this health assessment, which is a great way to kind of get some guidance on maybe some of the supplements that you should be incorporating into your diet. So let's get into a few recipes here really quick. Just a couple different ideas, sharing with you guys some options that, might be giving you some variety in your diet. So you can screenshot these and feel free to, share them with someone. But the first one here is something a lot of people have never tried. It's called tempeh. And this is an excellent, well balanced. If you're reading the ingredients in there, we have edamame, great source of protein. It's a soybean, amazing option for, like I said, a good, healthy, plant-based protein option. Tempeh also another one. Try to find organic if possible on that. And then you have, your combination of cauliflower and red pepper in there, which is really a good way to give you some vegetables, giving you the fiber, and again, a very balanced meal there. So that's just one maybe new idea for you, something different. Another idea, Thai cauliflower and sweet potato curry. So if you like things a little bit spicier, and there's some options here for more flavor and what to serve it with. But this is, again, a very simple plant-based menu option that could be incorporated throughout your week. And if you're looking here, 11 ingredients, takes you about 35 minutes to prep. So, a little bit more time consuming for a couple of these just because of the chopping. But honestly, once you get in the habit of doing this, you'll find it gets to be easier and easier once you have the recipes. That's the biggest thing. So here on the left is it's a golden oat recipe, which is very unique. I really like it because it uses lentils as the base. If you've never had lentils, they're a very mild bean, but have an amazing flavor to them and very high in protein. So combining that with this would actually be a breakfast idea. A lot of times we don't think about eating vegetables for breakfast, but it is a great way to sneak in some different flavors, different textures, and different ingredients. Can also be a lunch option too there or dinner. And smoothies, huge fan of smoothies and shakes, and really trying to, be creative with those. We are always coming up with new ideas. This is something that we do here on a monthly basis is our smoothie workshops where you can actually pick up freezer smoothie meals. But our goal is always we keep them in a low glycemic formula, and we make sure that we have enough calories in it. It's going to stay filling and help to make sure that you're also having in their digestive enzymes to help with breaking down food. But the healthy fat, you can see here, this one has flaxseed and almond butter in it. We have our small amount of fruit so we don't mess up with our glycemic index levels. And then we have the protein powder to balance it out. So that is a great strawberry shake smoothie recipe for you. And then just to give you a really quick idea too, if you're looking for more meal plan options on our new website, it's brand new. We just launched it. We have some great meal plans for you in there. So we actually broke it down now. For example, if your goal is weight loss, we give you a category of workouts, and then there's a meal plan that goes with that. So if you're looking for some more recipes and ideas, that would be an excellent way to go. And we would love to have you as a community member there. And it's again, a great way to be able to have some more customized options because, that is always our focus, is providing you with ideas and things that you can do from home, but also you have us as a resource. So in that new website, we're going to be having once a month time that you can come in and ask questions. We're going to be providing a new workout to the site every single month. We'll be adding new workouts. Right now, I believe we're about at 35 workouts in the library. So we're growing that. They're all 5 and 20 minutes. So very versatile and great options for all ages. So here's the Life Shake I mentioned that we are offering you $5 off to the end of the week. And I wanted to show you the label on this. This is why I put this on here, just to kind of give you an idea when you're looking at your label. Remember, it's not about pretty. It's not about marketing and advertising, but there are certain words that if you see this on the label, that that they actually have some type of, higher standards, because they can't just throw certain words on labels. Things like natural, that means that less than 5% of the ingredients in there actually have to be natural for them to put that word natural on the label. But there are some things that you can't fake. For example, vegan or gluten-free or non-GMO, that that they've met a little higher standards, and those are all good words to look for. And if you were to break down, what is in these Life Shakes, very gentle. So a lot of people that have, digestive issues, again, this has the digestive enzymes to help with that, but it also takes away a lot of the triggers that we find people struggle with from, it doesn't have dairy in it, doesn't have gluten in it, doesn't have a lot of things to break down, which means you're getting more concentrated nutrition. But a big part of that is how this is processed. So, I mentioned earlier, you want to be able to pronounce everything on your label, right? And this one, yes, it does have a few more ingredients in it. But if you look at how this is processed, that's what really makes this difference. Shaklee's been around for over 100 years, and they've always kept the philosophy of not using heat. They cold wash, for example, their beans. They don't use alcohol so that they are stripping away the nutrients. Everything is intact that our body needs. And that's the type of things that we really want to be working on getting more in of our diet versus our processed, canned, packaged things that we have no clue actually what is in there. So, all right, last thing I want to share here really quickly. I would love for you guys to set a goal and tag me in it, tag AV Wellness, and I will love to help hold you accountable. So maybe it's going to be you're going to start your food diary observation, and then you notice after about a week that you're really struggling with vegetables. So that's what I want your goal to be. You're going to create a SMART goal of how you're going to incorporate adding those vegetables, and then really start to look at in your food tracking how you're doing with that. So set a goal, tag me, and I'll be following up with you. So hopefully, again, guys, that we, shared a lot of information in here, but I hope it was helpful. Here is my contact info. So again, we are here to help you. Feel free to email me, text me, go to my site. You can reach me there too. Hope this was helpful. Take care, everyone.